Hey everyone, and welcome to the How to Be Debt-Free in 12 months or less Masterclass. And in today's training, what you're going to learn is how to get out of debt in 12 months or less. And we break down this topic into 5 sections. The first section is I want to talk about the mission on why being debt-free is important, on why it's a worthy goal to pursue for the year, and it's an equal goal to have the same as starting a business or growing your income. Becoming debt-free is so important in the journey to abundance if you want to reach financial security and financial freedom and financial abundance. Being debt-free is part of it, and I'll explain why later. Now, the second part of our training will be on the mindset. And this is about the right way to think about debt. Because the normal way people think about debt, it's crazy dangerous. Okay? And you learn that more about that in a while. Then finally, we'll go deep into the method on what exactly do you need to do in order to become debt-free. You learn what to prioritize, where to focus on, and that's basically the bulk of the training. And by the way, the voice you're hearing in the background, that's our baby daughter, Nika. So I hope you enjoy the mamas and stuff. Okay, now the fourth piece of training we'll do today are the mistakes. And these are what you have to avoid in the process as you're doing the method, which I'll share with you today. And finally, number 5, I'll be giving you a few role models to follow. And these are ordinary people who were buried in debt and did the steps, and now they are on their way to becoming debt-free, and some of them are already debt-free. Okay, so with that said, let us begin on why it's important to become debt-free. Number 1 reason is that so you can own 100% of your income and your assets. Anong ibig sabihin yan? Well, if you're someone na lubog sa utang, basically, pag hindi pa pumapasok yung sweldo, alam mo na at the end of the month, or alam mo na magbabayad ka to whoever you owe money to. You'll pay money for that car, for the home, you'll pay money to the credit card. So, hindi mo pa natatanggap yung income, alam mo nang nandun yung expense na yon. And that's why we say na if you're in debt, you don't really own 100% of your income because you can't decide to not pay that. That part of income goes directly to whoever you owe money to. So imagine if, kunwari, let's say someone is earning 50,000 a month, and every month yung binabayad niya sa utang is 10,000 a month, whether that's for the car or for the home amortization, etc. 10,000 a month. So essentially 20% nung salary niya ang pumupunta para lang sa utang. So this person just owns 80% of his income. Imagine going to work Monday through Friday. Pero, ang natatanggap mo lang na sweldo ay for Monday hanggang Thursday lang. Kasi yung Friday, yung kinita mo ng Friday, it goes directly to who you owe your money to. And not a lot of people think about debt this way, but when you have debts, that's how it works. You don't own your income. You don't own your assets. Because if you stop paying, syempre, kukunin nila yung, whether that's a phone, kukunin nila yung bahay, kukunin nila yung kotse, because you don't own it. And that's the reality of debt. Now, number 2 reason why I really encourage you to become debt-free and make that as a huge goal. Debts are crazy, stupid, expensive. What do I mean by that? The other day, I was going into the Pag-ibig home loan calculator. And check ko lang, like if I borrow 1 million pesos, how much would that be if I chose to pay for it in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and so on? So if you borrow 1 million pesos from Pag-ibig, and take note, Pag-ibig na to, so these are the low interests na to, borrow 1 million pesos, and then you get the monthly amortization, maybe binibigay silang figure. Now, you take that monthly amortization, multiply that by the number of months you still have to pay. So, in the case of 10 years, ang total na kailangan mo bayaran would be 1.3 million pesos. Ibig sabihin, you borrowed 1 million pesos, but you end up paying 1.3 million in the process. Saan napunta yung, parang, can you just imagine paying 30% more for what you're buying? And that's what debts are. Now, if we expand that example, kunwari sa Pag-ibig, if you expand that loan to 30 years, and I know a lot of people are doing this, a lot of Filipinos are doing this na minamaximize yung loan. If you borrow 1 million pesos, at the end of that 30-year period, the total money you paid out would be 2.1 million pesos. Doble. So, yung bahay mo is worth 1 million pesos, your home improvements was worth 1 million pesos, but you ended up paying 2 million pesos for it? That's crazy. And that's stupid. And I'm not afraid to mince words here na crazy and stupid because ganyan ang utang eh. Now, one more thing. Pagka tayo lumalaki, no? When kids want something and they're impatient for it, what do? Nagtatantrums, umiiyak, nagrereklamo, they become whiny. Adults, what do? When they want something that they can't have yet, they borrow money. They get into debt. Debts are a sign that you have become impatient with yourself. Debts are a sign that you can't control what you want. It's a sign of impatience. And that's why debts are bad. Now, let's go to the third reason. Debts are the exact opposite of wealth. And this is actually manifested when you start doing your SALN. And the SALN is the Statement of Assets, Liabilities, and Net Worth. So, you don't need to be an accountant to understand this. But basically, ang net worth kasi, ang computation yan is assets, the things you own, minus your liabilities, the things you owe. And when you subtract that, you get your net worth. Okay, how much money do you have? And so, debts, ang synonym yan, ang ibig sabihin yan, it's a liability. So, it subtracts to your wealth. Now, if you go to your cash flow statement, and a cash flow statement, another word for this is basically the budget. Okay? So, sa budget natin, kapag tinignan natin, income minus expenses, bahay, kuryente, pagkain, grocery, etc., etc. There is an expense, it's called interest expense. And basically, interest expense, it's the cost of impatience, it's the cost of you having to borrow money, na, umutang ka ng 1 million, pero babayaran mo 1.3M. That's a cost, that's an expense. And, income minus expenses equals your savings. So, the less savings you'll be able to generate, again, because of debts. Okay? So, I'm explaining this. I'm showing you why debts are so bad because nowadays, we live in a world where debts are normal when it's not supposed to be. Now, the biggest reason why I want you to become debt-free and why you should aspire to become debt-free, it's this. So you can own 100% of your choices in life. About a month ago, I was speaking with a client who was in a dead-end job, but she can't leave her job because 50% of her salary was going for the debts. Pangbayad lang ng utang. So, she can't take any risks to go into business. She can't take any risks to pursue her passions dahil sa utang. Kasi yung monthly expenses niya, alam niya, hahabulin siya. So she doesn't own her life. She can't make any of the choices she wants to make dahil sa utang. And among these 4 reasons, I think this is the biggest one. I want you to have full control of your choices in life, to not be hindered by debts. Because just imagine this, if you're someone who's in debt right now, how much are you paying every month towards your mortgages, amortization, and stuff? Think about that income na hindi mo na kailangan kitaan. Think about that income as being yours. What would that difference make in your life? Mas madali bang mag-pursue ng business? I would think so. Mas madali bang mag-ipon for your vacations? Of course. A lot of things get easier in life when you don't have debts. And that's why this is the mission. Become debt-free. Okay? Now, let's go into, before we go into the method, let's go into the mindset. When is debt okay? Kailan lang ba pwedeng umutang? And the answer I have with you, the answer I have for you is this one. If it's a life and death situation, if someone in the family is sick and kailangan ng funds para ipagamot, go. Borrow money. It's okay. Kasi at the end of the day, people is more important than money. But if it's a life and death situation, okay, if it's a medical emergency, okay lang umutang. Now, some of you might be thinking right now, teka lang, how about car loans? How about home loans? How about business loans? Everyone gets loans for those. Diba? Diba? Actually, no. People are living debt-free lives. In the book, The Millionaire Next Door by PhD Stanley, and this is where he studied over 700 US millionaires. They observed their lifestyle. Ano yung ginagawa nila? Well, millionaires actually, they were happy to buy second-hand cars, and so it was cheaper, and so they were able to pay for it in cash. They are people who rented until they could afford to buy the house in cash. And when they were starting their businesses, they bootstrapped it. Meaning, kanya-kanyang sikap para maghanap ng kapital. Kanya-kanyang ipon. It wasn't through a loan. Now, when you're finding yourself thinking na, yung kapitbahay ko naman, yung umutang, yung magulang ko naman, umutang, mga kaibigan ko, umutang. Don't follow everyone else because the average person is in debt. The average person has very little savings and close to no investments, and they will most likely retire broke, rely on their children, because they were obsessed with debt. So don't follow everyone else. Don't follow the average person. Instead, follow millionaires. Here's what they're doing. They're happy with second-hand cars. They still buy a house, but they saved for it. They waited for it patiently. They started their own businesses, pero hindi umutang para makapag-franchise. They did the hard work. And so they live debt-free lives. We have to raise the bar when it comes to debt. Kasi banks have certainly lowered their standards. And ito yung cause ng 2008 subprime mortgage crisis. Basically, banks said na, uy, pautangin natin itong mga tao na alam natin hindi makakapagbayad. That's what they said. And so people started borrowing money to buy houses they couldn't afford. And so nung nagtaas ng interest rates, people started defaulting. Hindi na sila nakabayad. Nung hindi na nakabayad, hala, nalugi si bangko. Kasi nagre-report sila na, oh, ito yung expected income natin, hindi nagpa-materialize. Nagbabayad tayo ng mga commission, nagbabayad tayo ng sweldo, meron tayong upkeep fees, and then all of a sudden, hindi sila makakolekta. Banks started to close down. And it had a trickle effect in the economy. Banks want us to be buried in debt. Kasi our debts equals their income. I'm putting here a picture of an email I received just today. And ito yung sabi nyo, Kick off your 2019 goals. Whether you plan to redecorate your space, learn something new, or travel more this 2019, you have blank loan to help you. What the hell? If you want to achieve your goals, you save up for it. You plan for it. You don't borrow money. Ito na yung ginagawa ng mga bangko na they equate achieving your goals into borrowing money. Anong klaseng thinking yun? So it's up to us to raise the bar. It's up to us to raise the standards on kailan ba pwedeng umutang. And I'm saying to you right now, okay lang umutang if it's a life and death case. Human life is more precious than any monetary value. Pero that's it. Let's look at it as a desperate last resort after you've tried everything else. Okay? It's up to us to raise the bar. Now, with that said, let's get into the method. Okay, how do you get out of debt? If you're in debt, how do you get out of debt? There are 4 big steps here. Okay, number 1, facing the truth. 2, determining the priority of payment. 3, letting momentum work for you. And number 4, unlock the 4 gates to debt freedom. And I'm going to dig deep into that one at a time later. But before we go into that, I just want you to know that you're going to be challenged in these steps. But that's okay. Kasi kung saan may challenge, doon din may growth. So let's embrace the challenge. Because when you become debt-free, you'll also grow as a person. You'll be forced to mature. You'll be forced to have more discipline, to plan things for the long term. You'll develop skills, critical money skills, that will help you avoid debts. So where there is growth, where there is a challenge, there's growth. And so that's why we embrace the challenge. With that said, let's now go into step number 1 on how to get out of debt. How to get out of debt. And that's to face the truth. This is a simple activity, but can be hard. A simple activity where you make a list of everything you owe and to whom. So, magkano utang and kanino. Put it all there. Credit card, personal, car, home, business, installment payments, utang sa 5-6, paluwagan, pawn shops, cash advances, utang personal loans to friends and family. And it's easy to forget this, especially if there are already so many debts. And if I was speaking to a client again before na ang tagal niya lang may utang na hindi nabayaran, that literally he's forgotten how much they were, and he had trouble recalling kung magkano na nga ba yun, kanino na nga ba yun, ano nga bang pangalan na. But he knew he owed money. But this is step number 1. And for some people, this is going to be harder than others. Mahirap harapin ang katotohanan na, wow, ang dami ko palang utang. It's just like ang hirap pumunta sa weighing scale after ng Pasko. Kasi alam mong lumamo ng marami. But there has to be that step. We face the truth. We accept the truth. Okay, this is how much I owe. This is a problem. That's step number 1. Okay? Now, after that, what do you do? Step number 2 is we determine the priority of payments. What does that mean? The first rule here is you have to protect your 4 walls. And this 4 walls concept, 4 walls ng bahay, it's a concept by Dave Ramsey, who's helped so many Americans get out of debt. And ano tong 4 walls na to? Food, shelter, clothing, and transportation. Food, of course, that's understandable. Bahay natin. Clothing, Philippines doesn't apply much, but if you're living abroad where there's snow and literally clothing, the lack of clothing can kill you, then, it's part of your 4 walls. And, of course, transportation to get around from home to work, etc. And these are your basic necessities for survival. Take note, basic necessity. So, hindi po dyan kasama ang Wi-Fi, Hindi po dyan kasama ang funds pang Clash of Clans. Hindi kasama ang Starbucks coffee. None of those things na we live in a society today where it's easy to say na something is a need. But if you're in debt, you have to question that. Is something really a need? Now, this is rule number 1. First and foremost. Kasi syempre, you can't deprive yourself. If you deprive yourself, it won't work. And that's why rule number 1 is alamin muna natin, ano ba yung 4 walls? Ano ba yung basic necessities ko talaga? Because if you don't know what your basic necessities are, if you keep your needs and wants blurred, you'll never be able to say na, okay, you can let go of this. So, goal number 1 is we protect ourselves. We protect yung 4 walls, our basic necessities, so that everything else, we know we can let go. Not necessarily, I'm not saying na you're supposed to let go of everything. No. Just know your 4 walls na, okay, as long as you have this, you're okay. Buhay ka. Now, rule number 2. This is now the next priority for payment. List down your debts from easiest to hardest to pay off. And it will vary from person to person on what's easy and what's hard. But the most basic way to do this is list down your debts according to smallest to highest amount. Kasi yung pinakamaliit, yun yung pinakamadali. In most cases. Okay, just go with your gut on what's easy and start there. So, ano ulit yung priority of payment? Number 1, food, shelter, clothing, and transportation. If you have that covered, the rest can go to paying off your debts. Okay? Now, there's no need to bother with the interest rates. Kasi I know a lot of people don't know kung ano exactly yung interest rate na binabayad nila. And that's okay. There are times na I've asked the client to figure out the interest rate, and it took them 2 months just to, find that document, call up that bank. And in that 2 months, nasayang yung time na, teka lang, dapat pala, nagbayad na lang ng utang, diretso na kung ano yung pinakamadali, kung ano yung pinakamababa. So, no need to bother with interest rates. Let's just go, keep this simple, easiest to hardest. And the easiest loan, the smallest loan usually, is what you'll work on first. Yun yung una nating tatanggalin. Okay? So, let me repeat again. You should not deprive yourself. Cover first food, shelter, clothing, and transportation. Your basic necessities. Everything else you can choose to dedicate for going out of debt. Now, take note, I'm raising the standards throughout this training very high. Kasi the training is all about how to become debt-free in 12 months or less. It's not how to be debt-free in 30 years. It's how to be debt-free in a year. So this is the fastest way you can get out of debt. If you take on this perspective na, okay, what do I need? Everything else, pwedeng i-let go yan. Not necessarily you choose to let go, but pwedeng i-let go yan. Pag-isipan natin. Okay? Now, step number 3 is to let the momentum work for you. And how does that go? When you're done paying off the easiest loan, you use the freed up cash flow to work on your next loan. Here's what I mean. So for example, meron tayong 3 utang. Credit card, car, and home. So yung credit card, 150K, and the monthly payment is 5,000. Car, 300,000, monthly payment, 9,500. Yung bahay, 2.5M, monthly payments, 15,000. Okay, so how does momentum work here? First, we focus on the credit card. 5,000 a month. Okay, keep paying that off, keep paying that off, keep paying that off. When the credit card is done, saan mo ngayon ilalagay yung 5,000? Yung 5,000 each month, we use that to pay off the car loan much, much faster. So now, instead of just paying 9,500 towards the car loan, it's 5,000 plus the 9,500. So 14,500 yung ginagamit pang bayad ng car. And then, that's gonna speed up the process na mabayaran yung car loan. After the car, you can now use 5,000, the 5,000 from the credit card, the 9,500 from the car, plus the 15 that you're already paying for the home. So in total, yung sum yan, 5 plus 9,500 plus 15, 29,500, yun yung pwede mo na ngayon pang bayad sa home loan. And again, that's going to accelerate the rate at which you become debt-free. Now, imagine this. If you're able to pay off all of these already, saan ngayon pupunta yung 29,500? That is income that's yours. That's money you can choose where to spend. That's the income that you have regained because you chose to be debt-free. A lot of people don't realize this now. When they pay off their debts, they're freeing up cash flow for themselves. Ang laki niya, no? And this is a simple example. This is an average example. Sometimes mas mataas pa nga. Okay, now, just a clarification on this step. Because there's a slight technicality on some advance payments. Depending on the loan type and the institution, yung conditions for advance payments, it can differ. For example, credit cards, yes, we can pay them off anytime. But yung mga credit card installments na, we went to the merchant and we said, okay, installment plan 12 months. You might have to call support or the merchant themselves para i-bill nila in full yung payment. Na instead of 6 more months, they'll bill it in full. The rest of the 6 months, okay, isang bagsakan. Okay? Now, some car loans can only be paid in full. And the way they do that is, kaya siya in full dapat para isang recomputation lang ng interest. Home loans, some of them have fees na if you want to recompute for them, if you're making a big payment, they take out a small fee. Now, the good news here is that we don't have to deal with this and overthink it until you're working on that specific loan already. So, in this example, if we're still working on the credit card, kung credit card pa yung focus, huwag muna natin pansinin kung paano ba mababayaran yung car, paano ba ma-advance pay yung home. Don't overthink it yet. Just focus on the credit card. One thing at a time. Okay? I'm just sharing this with you so that you don't get surprised. But it's okay. Kapag ganito na kailangan paid in full or kailangan big amounts yung binabayad, then you save up for it. Instead of paying it month to month, iniipon mo siya in a separate fund, in a separate account to be used for repaying ng isang malakihan. Okay? But if you're not there yet, no need to overthink it. Finally, number 4, unlock the 4 gates to debt freedom. Okay. We'll go at this one at a time. The first way to unlock the first gate to debt freedom is to ask yourself this: how can I decrease recurring expenses? And we go back here to the 4 walls: food, shelter, clothing, transportation. Anything beyond those 4 walls can be decreased. It's up to you to choose if you want to decrease it. The challenge, of course, is to free up more of that cash flow para pwede siyang pambayad ng utang. So, I want to challenge you. Right now, as you're listening to this, kailangan ko ba talaga ng Netflix subscription? Kailangan ba talaga na yan yung payment para sa phone? Kailangan ba talagang mag-pa-deliver? Kailangan ba talagang mag-grab? What are these small recurring expenses that you're taking on each and every month that you think you might be able to let go? Again, it's easier for you to do this if you know kung ano yung 4 walls mo. If you know your absolute basics, hindi ka matatakot. It's when people start to blur kung ano ba talaga yung kailangan nila versus yung gusto nila. When they don't know that, it's hard for them to let go of certain expenses. Kaya yung focus again natin, 4 walls muna. Ano ba talaga yun? Okay? So, that's gate number 1. Again, Whatever comes to mind for you, kung ano yung pwedeng ibawas, pwede kasing idagdag yan, pangbayad ng utang. Okay? Number 2 is to let go of underperforming assets or liabilities. What do I mean by that? Depende sa scope ng utang natin, kung gaano kalaki. Like, if you're someone who has debts amounting in the millions of pesos, like 5 million, 4 million, 2 million, 1 million, you might have to let go of significant assets na you bought it, but actually, you can't afford it. And that's the reason kung bakit ka may utang. You know, when you're in debt, it means you couldn't afford something. That's it. And so, sometimes we might have to let go of this. For some people, these are condos that they have to let go of. Some people, these might be cars. For those people in debt na hundreds of thousands. Sometimes these might be cars. It's because they opted for brand new when they couldn't afford it. To some people, these might just be laptops or cell phones. But if you find yourself having trouble with debt, it's because you took too much of something. And now, it's time to let go. Now, again, it's up to you to decide what you want to let go of. Yung condo naman na ibebenta or sabihin natin stock investment yan or insurance plan yan na may cash value or phone yan or kotse yan, whatever you let go, be grateful for it. Buti meron kang malilet go. Because there are people who are in debt who don't have any assets. You know, they got into debt because of traveling. They got into debt because they just forgot about they just forgot to pay the interest in the credit card and nagpile up na siya. You know, it's actually better that you have debts because of assets, because that way you can get out of debt by selling the asset. So whatever you're letting go, be grateful for it. Okay lang. You used it. And whatever comes to mind, write it down. Parang, okay, sige, tingin ko pwede ko nang ibenta to. Every bit of peso helps towards building that momentum to get out of debt isa-isa. Okay, now let's go to the third gate. This is to increase short-term income. Take note, I really put there short-term. We're not going for long-term passive income. So I'm not saying, hey, start a business so you can get out of debt. I'm just saying short-term income, whatever helps you get out of debt will yield long-term results for your financial stability. Bakit? Kasi when we pay off our debts, natatanggalan tayo ng interest expense. Nababawasan tayo ng passive expenses. Debts are passive expenses. So even if naghanap ka ng part-time, nag-bazaar ka ng Saturday, even if these are one-time streams of income, that's okay. Kasi yung income na yun, pwedeng panggamit, pangbayad ng utang, and once mabayaran yung utang, nawawalan tayo ng passive expenses. So even if you're doing something for the short term, it can help you succeed long term. Okay, so what are the ways by which you can increase short-term income? Again, this is a challenging question, but if you want to become debt-free in 12 months or less, it becomes a necessary question to answer. Finally, step number 4 is to raise some TLC, and this is trust, love, capital. Capital that's based on trust and love. Essentially asking help from friends or relatives. If you could borrow money that's interest-free. Now, this is a very tricky gate to unlock. Because first, you need to know the interest that you're paying on your other debts para makita kung necessary na siya. Now, this becomes necessary when debt becomes just so overwhelming na yung interest ang laki na nung interest dun sa interest dun sa interest that you really can't get out of it. That's why it's a last resort. That's why that's number 4 there. That's why the first 4 gates are, what can you decrease in terms of your expenses? Have you let go of things that you own? Have you increased your short-term income yet? The last is to raise some TLC. But that's also an option. Okay? Now, you have to remember this when you're feeling some feelings of overwhelm, or you're feeling really challenged right now na, kaya ba talaga to? Kaya ko bang gawin tong 4 na ito? It's this, the thinking that got you into debt won't get out of it. So, we have to be ready to think outside of what you consider to be normal. Okay? Again, let me repeat that. The thinking that got you into debt won't get you out of it. So we have to change our thinking. We have to expand what we think to be normal. Again, madali kasing sabihin na, okay, decrease recurring expenses, and then you see your friends and other colleagues na, ginagawa din naman nila yan lubog sila sa utang. Ginagawa rin naman nila to, bakit hindi nila let go? Okay naman sila. Again, let's not follow the average, because the average person is in debt. The average person has no savings. The average person has very little investments and will most likely retire broke. So we need to change the way of thinking. So with these 4 steps, whatever comes to mind na, okay, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to let go of this. I'm ready to save in this area of our expenses. I'm ready to explore increasing my income in this area. I'm ready to ask for help. Whatever strikes to you as, okay, kaya ko itong gawin, I'm ready to do it, I want to try it out, do it. Okay? I'm not imposing anything here, but it's you that has to challenge yourself na, okay, let's do this. These are the 4 areas to focus on. Anong gagawin ko in each? That inner challenge, that inner motivation has to come from you. But this is the method. All right? Now, let's go into the 5 big mistakes that people do when they're trying to pay off their debts. And these are common misconceptions when you try to get out of debt. And I've seen this in clients. I've seen this with many people, and it's a pitfall. So I'm teaching in advance so you can avoid this way of thinking. Number 1 is aiming for full payment over consistency in payment. This especially applies to personal loans. Kunwari may utang ka kay kaibigan na 50,000 pesos. And, nangungulekta na si kaibigan, nahihiya ka na, syempre. But you can't afford to pay 50,000 pesos. So what do? You promise, in 6 months, babayaran ko na yan. That's a big mistake. Instead, what's better is saying, kaibigan, hindi ko talaga afford yung 50,000 ngayon, pero here's what I'll do. I'll pay 5,000 each month. Kasi yun yung kaya ngayon eh. Sabihin ni kaibigan, hindi pa talaga kaya kahit 10,000? 5,000 a month. Yun yung kaya. Consistent. I'll be consistent there. Okay? So, when you're paying for something, consistency is more important than paying the full amount of it. Sometimes kasi, yung mga utang natin, it gets so overwhelming. It gets so big na we can't fathom to pay in small amounts. Kasi feeling natin, hindi na parang walang effect kung magbayad ka ng small amount. But it does. It has an effect. Yung maliliit na payments, yung consistency na yon, it matters. And so, the thinking na you have to go for full payments, nope, that's a big mistake. Consistency is more important. Pay it off slowly but surely, and you'll be able to make it. The second mistake is obsessing over the future when it's the present that is messed up. I've had clients wherein they were so obsessed with building passive income that they were closing themselves to the opportunity of having just short-term income, short-term solutions. So this person was buried in debt, millions in debt, and they wanted to start a business. You know, a business that will take 6 months, 12 months to solve their problems. And during that time, palaki lang ng palaki yung utang. So when the present is messed up, just focus on the short term. Kaya yung step number 4, you know, raise short-term income. That's the solution. Don't obsess over the future. Don't start planning na, kasi gusto kong mag-invest in the stock market. Kasi nagpaplano ako for your retirement. Nagpaplano ako for the kids' tuition. Teka lang, lubog ka nga sa utang eh. And that's the problem. Nalulunod ka sa interest. Nalulunod ka sa utang. So get out of that first before you obsess over the future. Planning for the future is nice and all, but if you're struggling right now, focus on the present. And for many people, that means getting out of debt. The third big mistake is that you forget that things are just things. One of the financial trainers, si Susie Orman, she's a very good financial trainer in the US as well. Ito yung saying niya, people, money, then things. And I just love that. People, money, then things. Things that we have right now, things that we own, they are just things. Cellphone, kotse, bahay, TV, furnishing, these are just things. Okay? And I know this is a challenging concept for many, that especially where we live in a very materialistic world and where we're bombarded with messages from all of these companies that things equals happiness. But at the end of the day, we know that's not true. Things are just things. And the reason why many people get into debt is because they put things over money. And because now they're putting things over money, the money is so stressful, they have to put money over people. Baliktad eh. The priority should be people, money, then things. Don't get it around. Huwag natin guluhin yung priority na yun because shit happens. If you put things over money, you will also have to put money over people. There will come a time that will happen. Okay? So, let's know the right order. People, money, then things. Things are just things. And hopefully that will help you let go of some things in your life that you're ready to let go of. The fourth big mistake is letting yourself be manipulated that debts are a solution. And the banking industry, the financial industry, is spending millions, if not billions, into advertisements, into commercials, letting you believe that debts are a way forward. But again, it's not. Debts aren't a way forward. For example, if we look at the net worth statement, the SALN, so yung statement of assets, liabilities, and net worth. Okay? Now, again, the asset column is the things you own, yung value ng kaarian, liabilities, the things you owe, and then net worth, magkano ang natira. So, you might be thinking na, okay, kung kunwari bumili tayo ng bahay, umutang tayo para sa bahay, and the house is worth 1 million. Okay? So, you have 1 million in assets. Pero teka lang, magkano yung babayaran mo ulit? 1.3 million pesos if you took out a loan for 10 years. But if it's for 30 years, 2 million, 2.1 million pesos. 2.1 million pesos yung pupunta sa liabilities column. So your assets, it's worth 1 million. Your liabilities, it's 2.1 million. Ano ang net worth mo because of that transaction? negative 1.1 million pesos. So how is that a solution? Bumagsak yung net worth eh. How is that a solution? And banks, oh my God, they will just advertise and advertise for you to borrow money. And at the end of the day, these are marketing tactics. They manipulate us para umutang. I saw a billboard one day while driving. Nagsisiksikan pa rin kayo, parang nagre-renta ka pa rin. Bili na ng bahay. Take out our home loan. Oh my God. That's manipulation. And if you let yourself be manipulated, that having debts is moving forward, you're gonna be in big trouble. So I'm sharing these insights with you right now to heighten your awareness that it's a tactic, it's a marketing tactic. Pinaplano talaga yan na banks want you to borrow money and make you think that getting into debt will move you forward. It won't. It's good to aspire for your own home. It's good to aspire for having and driving your own car, but not through debts. Debts are not the solution. And finally, number 5, I've been talking about it throughout this episode, comparing yourself with the average. Again, let's remember, the average person is buried in debt, they have no savings, they're unhappy, they're broke, they're gonna retire broke, they don't have any freedom. Do you want that? If not, then let's stop comparing ourselves with the average. Okay, now, I know that was pretty heavy, so let me give you now some examples of some role models to follow. And these are actual people that I've worked with. These are, the stories here are of actual clients that have shared their story. So number 1 is si Jowelyn. Jowelyn is a dentist in KSA, and that's Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And she borrowed money kasi low interest naman ang utang doon. May mga utang din siya sa Pilipinas. May motorcycle loan siya. And meron din siyang pinapadalang pera monthly for the family. And she was buried in debt, had no savings at all. And when she learned these techniques, these strategies, when she finally said na, okay, sige, I want to become debt-free, what she did was she took on the fire drill challenge. And what that is a challenge to live on the absolute minimum. And I didn't impose it on her. Siya mismo, kusa, sinabi na, sige nga no, I like the concept ng fire drill challenge, find out just really what I need. And so she did it for 1 month. And because she did it ng 1 month, she realized na, okay, ang dami ko palang pwedeng tipirin, ang dami ko palang bala, ang dami ko palang ammunition para maging debt-free. And so, her results, she paid over 300K in debts within 3 months. And within 1.5 years, she was able to save 1 million pesos for her clinic back home in the Philippines, for her dental practice. Imagine that. From lubog sa utang, and within 1.5 years, nakaipon ng 1 million, and nakaipon ng, nabayaran ng mga utang. That's huge. And it all started when she took on the fire drill challenge. Ang daming realizations doon na, oh, I can survive on just this much. And now, these are her results. Now, I'm sharing these with you to hopefully give you ideas ng what you can do. Kasi at the end of the day, I can't force you to do anything. At the end of the day, the motivation must come from within you to try and challenge yourself to get out of debt faster. Okay, number 2 is si Mel S. And si Mel works in the Philippines in digital ads, and she has credit card loans up to 175K, pending payments for legal fees ng 85K. So, medyo marami rin na utang. Now, what did she do naman? what she did was she sold off her stocks even if it was at a loss. She terminated her insurance kasi natutunan niya na, okay, hindi ko pa naman pala kailangan. Now, she was also paying for the insurance plans of her parents for health insurance. And it still had cash values to them. So what she did was, she didn't let go of it. She just paused it. So, tigil muna. And in the meantime, for a good year, yung year ngayon, dun ngayon kumukuha from the cash value, dun kumukuha ng payments for insurance. So, all of her excess funds now and all of her previous saving, it's now going into debts. And here are her results. Ito yung in-email niya. Initially, my target was to be debt-free by November 2019. But now, because of what she did, she can do it by May. 6 months in advance. And the best part here, nasabi niya, the best part is I don't have to deprive myself or my family. And it's because of Mel's ability to let go of the long term. This is an example of letting go of the long term to fix the short term, to win in the long term. So, yung stock investments niya, she made those for her retirement. Yung insurance niya, well, she made those out of, she didn't need it, but she got it out of misinformation. But she was able to let go of past decisions. And in this process of getting out of debt, it's okay to let go of things. Hindi yan sayang because your financial intellect, your financial literacy, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, the decisions you made many years ago was in the past. And now, today, you're a much smarter person. You're a much wiser person. You're much more intelligent in terms of finances. So when you compare yung sarili mo 5 years ago who made bad financial decisions, comparing them now, and now, the smarter you is saying, I should let go of this. You should feel good about that. Kasi you were smarter. You were smart enough to figure out na, okay, I can let go of this. Mas tamang paraan ito. Okay? Don't feel bad that in the past, you made bad decisions. It's okay. You've learned better. So, you move forward, let go of things. And so for Mel, she was able to let go. As a result, 6 months in advance, she's going to be debt-free. And now, model number 3. Si Melanie. Okay? She's an accountant in Canada. She's a single mom. She has over 1.2 million in credit card debts. That's about 35K Canadian dollars. She's also still paying off her car loans. And nung nalaman niya yung 4 methods, yung 4 gateways, ang nag-strike sa kanya is yung raise income. And so that's what she did. She looked for part-time jobs. She put out her resume that she was looking for a job. She talked to her boss and sabi niya na, can I have 1 day off kung may makuha akong part-time job? Sabi naman ng boss, okay, sure. Nagagawa mo naman yung work mo. And so, she got one offer within 19 days. That meant an extra $400 that she could use to pay off her loans. Now, she told me 6 months later that when she put out her resume out there online, may nakuha pa siyang ibang offers. And so, she was already doing 2 part-time jobs. And she was already earning 1,500 Canadian dollars from another sideline. Now, one thing to note about Melanie here, she's a single mom. She's taking care of her kids, and yet she had the courage, the boldness to get a part-time job. So look at that drive, look at that motivation. Isn't that inspiring? The last person you would think na magsasakripisyo ng ganyan, Melanie here has all the excuses not to look for more income. She can say, I'm so busy, I'm a single mom. But instead, what did she do? She looked for a part-time job. I have to get out of debt. That's commitment. And so, what happened? Well, she paid off her car loan much, much faster, and Credit card debts, it's going to be done by mid-2019. She's on track with that. Now, I want you to look forward here in the example of Melanie. You might be thinking, oh, she's sacrificing so much. She's sacrificing time with her daughter. But what happens after mid-2019? When she has no more debts, kapag wala na yung 1.2 million na utang, how much free cash flow is that going to be? And wow, meron na siyang part-time nakita na $15 every single month. Where can that go? Well, she can choose to let go of it. She can own the decision na, okay, I don't need to work extra hours anymore. Debt-free na ako eh. I'm okay. Melanie has the freedom of choice. And that's what you'll gain when you start becoming debt-free. Now, I'd like to end this training with just this simple message. You can do this. You can do this. Kaya mo yan. Other people have done it. I've met and talked with so many people, with so many Filipinos from different backgrounds. Mahirap, mayaman, nakatira sa squatters area, may utang na 10 million, nakatira sa mga magagandang subdivision, all walks of life. I've talked with so many Filipinos, and my conclusion is this. When you give Filipinos the right financial education, when you equip them with the right tools, the right steps, nagagawa nila. They can do this. They achieve it. They become debt-free. And so, even though I don't know you, even though I may not know your name, what you're going through, I know that you can do this. It's time to get back control of your finances and of your life. It's a lot easier to make decisions when you're debt-free. And so let's make that a priority. And if for nothing else, in this journey of becoming debt-free, let me tell you in advance that you're going to be so proud of who you become in the process of becoming debt-free. The way that you'll mature, the way that you'll just look at the world differently, the person who you're going to become na hindi na impatient, knows how to budget, knows how to save, is much more intentional and aware of where their money is going. When you start to look at things as just things, when you're no longer that attached to material things, and you're able to zone in and focus on what really matters, which are the people in your life, there's so much growth in this process. And I'm excited on what you'll be able to do with this training today, how to get out of debt in 12 months or less. Now, I'd like to end this training with just one final reminder. Let's all remember that wealth is a choice. So let's choose to be wealthy.